Hi friends, it's Brittany at Ink and Papyrus. How are you? It's almost that time again. Spring is well on its way. So I'm exploring a couple of different options for making a spring journal. And I've been holding on to this little golden book for a while now. And I think I'm going to make a cover out of it. But obviously it's in pretty rough shape. It's going to need a lot of altering, a lot of work to make a journal out of this, but you know what? That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna spruce this up and give this book new life, and I can't wait. So you're gonna see me removing the sticker, getting this adhesive off. I'm gonna be sanding down. I just have a sanding block here. I'm gonna be sanding this down. I'll probably need to glue these frayed edges of the cover back together again. And once I do that, I'll probably I have some book edges that we can put on here, so you'll never know that this was totally frayed. I'll be disassembling this. We will be using these pages in our journal, so as signature pages, so I will be careful to try and get these out without damaging them. And then I think we're going to be covering the back and sprucing it up to complement the front cover. It'll be spring inspired, maybe something to do with this bunny here, maybe flowers, butterflies, that kind of thing. So that's what I'm going to be doing, deconstructing and putting it back together again. And obviously we'll be adding a much larger spine to accommodate as many signature pages as we would like. Okay, now you're going to see me deconstructing the book. I'm simply taking my craft knife and cutting down that groove in between the front cover and the spine, and the groove between the spine and the back cover. You can use a ruler if you want, but there was a really good line there already marked out for me. Okay, next you're going to notice that I'm taking my craft knife and cutting down the spine to extricate, if you will, those pages. We are definitely going to be using those pages to decorate our book, and I end up using one of them to cover the inside cover. And of course, I'm going to be using them in the signature pages as well. You'll notice I do have a little bit of fraying still on the cover, so I go ahead, get off what I can with the craft knife, and take a sanding block to it. I still have to deal with those frayed edges, and I'll show you what I end up doing with those shortly. I basically end up gluing them back together again and applying some book corners, and I think you're going to be astounded at how revitalized this cover ends up being. It looks like a brand new book. Okay, so now you're going to see me putting down a bunch of glue. I found this gorgeous fabric that I wanted for the back cover. It just has flowers all over it. And you're going to see me smushing the glue with my finger. I think this helps prevent bleed through. And then once I finish doing that, we're going to get that fabric down. I'm going to do some trimming of the corners there so that we can fold the fabric over the corners. And then once the fabric is folded over, I'm going to take one of the book pages that I took from this book to decorate the inside cover. Here you'll see me folding the fabric back over. Don't worry if it's not precise. There may be a little bit of extra fabric hanging over on one end more than the other. That's totally fine because I end up putting a book page over it, so you'll only be able to see the edges anyways. Now I'm gluing the book page to the inside cover, and you know, I went back and forth about what to do with the inside cover, but these book pages were so adorable. It seems silly not to use them in making of the inside cover. I just had to. Okay, so obviously I cut off the spine of the book. There's no way that little spine was going to be big enough to accommodate all the signature pages that I have planned. So here I just altered a old box to be about the size of the spine that I want, and I'm gessoing it. I decide I'm going to ultimately paint it pink, and I've decided for this book that I'm going to use an exposed spine, and I'm going to try out some new techniques I've never tried before, including adding some beads and charms to the outside of the spine as I'm binding my signature pages in. So I was really alarmed at how easily that paint flaked off the cover when I was trying to remove that adhesive sticker. So I knew I needed to do something to preserve the integrity of the cover and just kind of make it a little bit more glossy and less dull. And that's why I broke out this acrylic sealer, and I love the results. So after about my 100th coat, I swear, of gesso, it was time to paint that exposed spine. I end up just painting the front and the back the same pink color, and I love how this turned out. Here I'm just distressing the edges of the book with a little bit of pink paint. I just really like the way it looks. These book edges were definitely beyond repair, so really the only option I had was to apply some book corners, and I think this looks great. Don't judge, I just think the hole punch works beautifully to snap on those corners. I'm sure there's a fancy tool for this that I'm missing out on, but oh well, it seems to work fine for me every time. And now that other corner is going on, I'm going to pinch that tight. And guys, when I move the cover, look at the sheen on that cover just from that acrylic spray. That's literally all I did to the cover. Do you see that big blotch left from the adhesive from that sticker I removed? Well, what are we going to do about that? Can't really paint over it without interfering with the cover title. So what we're going to do is just put this really pretty butterfly embellishment over top of it. It's not going to cover the word bunny, and it's at least going to cover part of that sticky spot. It's not even sticky anymore. It's just where I rubbed hard enough, sort of some of the paint started flaking off. Okay, so now that the spine is dry, you're going to see me come in with some heavy duty tape. Here I have the front and the back cover positioned, so there's about a 1/4 of an inch between the front cover and the spine, and then the spine and the back cover. You're going to want to make sure that you you rip off tape that's long enough that you can cover the entire top to bottom, as well as wrap it back around. You're going to do this several times as I'm demonstrating. Okay, there are clever ways to hide the tape. Don't be shy. If you start too far over on the spine and don't cover enough of that spine or the front cover, the tape will peel up. So be generous. Like I said, there are some ways to cover the tape if you just don't like the texture of it and it bothers you that it's sticking out. And I will show you later in the video. You'll see me coming with some trim, and that kind of helps cover some of this tape here as well. A bone folder is a great way to get at any remaining bubbles or creases that may still be in the tape. I thought about using this trim to cover the tape, and I do really like it, but if I put it on the front cover, it was going to cover up the title of the book, and I didn't want to do that, so I decided on a much smaller, thinner yellow trim. So the trim I chose is this thin yellow trim. As a result, not every last inch of the tape is covered. I'm okay with that. The tape is very transparent. It's not very noticeable. I'm fine with that, but that may be a consideration depending on how you choose to construct your book. The trim is really only thick enough to cover the front and back cover. It doesn't really cross over the spine much. That is something to consider. The absolute best way to reinforce the spine and make it as strong as possible would be to get quite a bit of whatever fabric you're using to hang over the spine and cover that hinge portion of the book. But again, in my case, I would be covering the title of the book, so I opted not to do that, but just a consideration, something to think about. Here you'll see me making marks with my Sharpie and my ruler. I decided on a 3 signature book, so you'll see me making the dots accordingly, where I'm going to punch my holes to bind in my signatures. As you'll notice, again, this is going to be an exposed spine, so I'm punching right on the spine that I used to bind the book. If I were to do a hidden spine, I would be punching on a different piece of cardboard, which I would then be attaching to the spine, if that makes sense. Oh my gosh, talk about tools that you can't live without. This Crocodile Big Bite, oh my gosh, it is incredible. It can literally punch through anything. I'm not big into saying you have to buy something, but if I were to list like 10 things that I couldn't live without, I think this would be one of them. All I'm doing here is cleaning out some of the holes I punched. Sometimes if you punch holes through tape, you'll get some of the, little tape bits in there, but this is easily fixed with tweezers. So friends, I have finished altering this little golden book. As you saw, I went through a process of sanding the cover down to even it out. I edged it with a little bit of paint to distress it, but also to cover up some of the fraying that happened. I reinforced these edges by gluing them. They were coming up, they were fraying, and put the book corners on. I did the same thing here. I backed the back cover because it was so just kind of worn. I backed the back cover with some spring floral fabric, and then I cut a spine. This is going to be a 3 signature book. I reinforced the spine with some tape, and then also reinforced it with a little bit of trim. And then I wanted to secure the spine a little bit more, so I did sew over it in between the holes that I left for the signatures. And I am thrilled. Oh, and of course I added a butterfly because that when I was scraping up the adhesive from that sticker, I did manage to take a little bit of the cover off, and I thought, I really wanted to preserve the integrity of the cover and leave the bunny and most of the cover as is, but I thought how perfect with the butterflies and everything to add a little dimension. I had these butterfly embellishments that have some gold around the edges, and I thought how beautiful if we can kind of cover that up a little bit and add another focal point to the cover. So I am thrilled with how this came out. I think you saw me in the video holding this up to kind of see if this would go. I did really like this, but I thought, I'd probably want to add it on both sides, and obviously if I were to do that on this side, then I would cover up home for a bunny. So I think I'm gonna skip that for now. In a future video, I'm gonna be choosing my signature pages. I will cut them, alter them. In a future video, since I'm doing an exposed spine, I would really like to, since I'm leaving this as is, and this is kind of just plain fabric, I would really like to do a really special exposed spine. I think with some beading or something else really cool that gives this cover more character. So we will be doing an exposed spine binding, And we will also be creating a really cool tassel with spring floral themes. So I look forward to that. If you guys enjoyed this, you found value in this, please like and subscribe. And I can't wait to see you the next time.